Some reviews of this movie seem to tell you it's bad because it focuses heavily on characters other than Buzz. I don't really agree with that. It seems to focus on Buzz's relationships with the people around him and how those relationships affect him. As such, we really do need to get to know these characters so we at least care about them. If, say, a character dies, we need to care about them, otherwise, we don't empathize as well with Buzz's losses. The movie starts with a text crawl claiming this is the movie that made Andy a super fan of Buzz Lightyear. Unfortunately, I don't see it, and it makes no real sense. What's worse is it doesn't need to be there. A movie based on this character really doesn't need the connection any more than Buzz Lightyear's Star Command needed the CGI intro with the toys from Andy's room. It's clear from the get-go that Buzz has a stubbornness problem, which becomes worse as the movie goes on. The planet these characters land on immediately tries to murder them, which I found immensely amusing. Unfortunately, this leads to an action scene which is going to be the first in a long string of Buzz only being able to fight well when the story needs him to. Either he's a skilled fighter or he's not. Please pick one movie. There's actually a neat scene at this point that shows how well coordinated Buzz and Alicia are. When Alicia throws an energy machete at Buzz and he catches it while being attacked by literal strangling vines, and given the kind of anime I grew up watching, that is terrifying. Next, we see Buzz trying to perform an emergency takeoff from the planet while the computer's telling him they're going to crash. He refuses to accept the precise machine calculations and manages to crash the ship while the rookie is doing everything in his power to distract Buzz. You know, the pilot. Yes, that actually happens. The rookie ranger is that dumb. The only good thing about all this is it emphasizes the close friendship between Alicia and Buzz, although I do find it very weird we don't see anyone blame Buzz for marooning them, not even an annoyed glance. The only person who blames Buzz is in fact Buzz, and Alicia basically tells him to sack up because one of them has to take several extreme risks later to escape planet death, and he's the only one either brave, dumb, or skilled enough to do it. Maybe all three. I have no doubt Alicia would have if necessary. They're both rangers after all. These folks are now forced to perform a dangerous hyperspace test flight, and this leads to one of the movie's worst plot holes, the time dilation. We know today that going at extreme speeds causes some time dilation effects. We have tested it. Our GPS satellites even have to adjust for the effect. It stands to reason that any advanced civilization would know about it, and these people have already been using hyperspace flight for quite some time. They should know, and someone should have raised their hands and said, "Hey Buzz, what about the time dilation effect?" It's especially odd how no one brings this up because it's obvious reason they can't just wait for rescue. Even if they could communicate with anyone off-world, unlikely given the distances involved, the time dilation means an absurd amount of time would pass on-world by the time any rescue showed up, and I mean generations upon generations, not years or decades. It also means that the turn-up really should have been a colony ship rather than a research vessel, as who in their right mind puts 1,200 people on a research ship? It does explain the efficiency at which the settlement is built, though. They're mostly professional scientists and soldiers. When Buzz lands after the first test flight, 4 years have passed, and while everyone's happy to see him, no one's really shocked, so Buzz seems to be the only person who didn't know about the time dilation. When Buzz and Alicia are talking, Buzz expresses a desire to matter, which Alicia agrees with, but clearly she has someone other than Buzz who cares deeply for her. Alicia seems to be Buzz's only real connection, and no matter how many jumps he makes or how much of an age difference that comes between them, they remain very close friends. On return to his apartment, Buzz is given a robot cat named Socks, and this is the only time I will ever say this about a cat. I want one. As Buzz is leaving for his next jump, he makes a comment about wanting Socks to figure out this hyperspace fuel thing, so eventually the obvious is going to happen. After a lot of jumps, Buzz returns to find Alicia's office empty and a deathbed goodbye recording on her desk. This scene is very well done and probably one of the only times outside of some extremely well written scenes that an animated movie has come close to causing me to shed a few tears. The To Infinity and Beyond thing stops being funny for a moment and starts being a bit tear-jerking, at least for this scene. After Buzz watches the goodbye, the base's new commander, who I will now dub Commander Red Herring, swaggers in and tells Buzz they're canceling the Space Ranger program and instead using a laser shield to protect the base from the local wildlife. Yeah, because the small area they can shield is going to be more than enough for farming and livestock. I'm going to point out again, the entire planet seems to be completely hostile to human life. The only reason they're staying is they seem to have gotten used to the world And while to the next generation it may be the only home they know, it is still in fact a planet-sized death trap. Buzz decides to steal Socks, who has been working on the fuel formula for a long time, and a ship to finally finish the hyperspace fuel. And while his motivations definitely skew on the selfish side, he's not necessarily doing the wrong thing. Again, planet of death. While this trip proves the formula stable, it also slingshots Buzz even further into the future, over 2 decades into the future, where he meets a mysterious stranger. During this meeting, a dangerous situation involving evil robots unfolds, and said stranger has to keep shushing Buzz because he's practically shouting to a potential enemy. Buzz learns that the stranger is Alicia's granddaughter, who has a bit of a fangirl obsession with being a space ranger, and she takes him to meet her team. And now we meet the Idiot Squad. They become far better as the movie goes on, but their introduction shows them to be at best inexperienced, and at worst, really dumb. We have the legacy and kind of leader Izzy, who is way too fast to act, Mo the scatterbrained, and the most entertaining, at least later on in the film, Darby, a tough old woman with a penchant for making things explode, and unlike other movies where the secondary cast is superfluous, they actually have some effect on the plot and Buzz's character development. Turns out Izzy has a plan to save everyone from the robots that seem to be attacking the populace, and it makes me wonder if she has been eating paint chips because her plan is to fly a small ship up to the villain's massive ship and blow it up from the inside. The reason I question her planning skills is because her plan requires a pilot, which the team did not have until they met Buzz. Yes, I know Bomber Woman is on parole for stealing a ship, but since she both got caught and never volunteers to fly the team's ship, she probably isn't a very good pilot. Buzz is not thrilled to find out the small team is basically the equivalent of a sloppy version of a high school ROTC cadets, and spends a bit too much of the movie saying he can't put them in danger. They are all adults, fully aware of the risks, have at least some training. It's not great training, but it's training, and they are the only people who can help. The team is attacked by a robot, and the fight that ensues is proof that none of these people, except maybe Buzz, should be anywhere near a combat situation. They manage to just barely destroy one of the robot's arms and deactivate it, although it will come back rather pointlessly later. It also demonstrates that Buzz isn't very experienced with fighting actual robots, probably because the robots he's encountered up until now were made to serve humans. Next, the team has to get to their ship, which is in a hangar infested by giant killer bugs, or rather, Buzz has to screw up pretty badly by not giving the Idiot Squad vital information that forces him to go back for them, and they all wind up on the ship. The information he forgets isn't really something anyone with a functioning brain would forget. When the team is en route to wherever Buzz was going to drop them off, they are attacked by Zurg's fighter craft, which makes no sense given his actual motivations. He especially shouldn't be willing to shoot their ship out of the sky. The reason will become painfully obvious later. Big bad time. Zurg shows up in person and offers Buzz his hand, asking for Buzz to come with him, using his name. Buzz seems shocked by this, however, every person, or at least most people on this planet, should know who Buzz is, so it's not really that shocking. Buzz once again has what should be elite combat and invasion skills severely muted for plot reasons, i.e., so the squad can rescue him from Zurg. I don't mind them being upgraded to useful squad, I just wish it hadn't been at the expense of both the protagonist and the villain. They take off in the ship, running from a bunch of robots, and Izzy manages for a moment to make Mo look smart in comparison when she decides not to listen to Buzz's exact instructions when it comes to extremely dangerous hyperspace fuel, leading to the fuel canister being ejected from the ship, and an absurd game of catch the bottle occurs with Zurg eventually capturing the fuel canister, teleporting back to his ship, and as a kicker, Buzz winds up being teleported up there as well, leaving the others on the ground. On the ship, Buzz meets Zurg, who reveals himself to be a future version of Buzz, alternate future actually. Using the hyperdrive, he has traveled to the vastly distant future, stolen a lot of tech, including time travel technology, and somehow broken time to the point where he and a younger Buzz can coexist, and he intends to break it even further by preventing these people from even landing on the planet. Buzz points out that that would erase everyone who was born on the planet and all of the relationships that occurred as a result of the crash. Zurg does not care, having become obsessed with his glory days and actually mattering again. He has all of young Buzz's problematic traits dialed up to 11. Buzz outright refuses to let him do this, so of course Zurg decides to attack Buzz to get the fuel crystal back, and a really interesting looking future version of Socks knocks Zurg out, claiming to like this different, less psychotic Buzz. Good kitty. Okay, someone needs to keep these three away from sharp objects. The useful squad launch a rescue attempt using the robot's teleport technology. I would say that's kind of clever, but they have no proof that they won't be teleported straight into a cell or something equally unpleasant by any security measures on the Zerg ship. Buzz finds the Zerg ship's bridge and sets the entire ship to self-destruct. An advantage of being a younger version of the bad guy seems to be the ship thinks he's Zerg. Neat. Also, overkill much? A now awake and royally pissed off Zerg enters the bridge and a fight starts between him and Buzz. To my great sadness, battle-scarred future Socks is destroyed by Zerg. During this fight, Buzz can apparently fight now. During the fight, Izzy is making her way towards the battle while Mo and Darby are guarding the escape ship, and Darby is utilizing her rather boom-happy skill set to destroy the Zerg robots while being snarky. She is now my favorite character. When Zurg has nearly beaten Buzz, he and Izzy have a rather adorable moment where Buzz claims he needs Izzy, not her grandmother, motivating her, an admitted astrophobe, to pull a full Kirk and launch herself from one airlock to another so she can help Buzz in the fight. She does reach the bridge in time to help, only problem is, well, boom. Yeah, the self-destruct goes off and for some reason seems to be happening section by section rather than the whole ship at once. The team escapes on their ship just in time not to be exploded, although Buzz does get ragdolled at one point. As they're on their way back to the planet, what a surprise, Zurg's not dead. Well, for about 30 seconds. Buzz sacrifices a hyperspace crystal to end him, and I'm pretty sure he's actually dead this time. When they return to planet Linewhip, the team hears the rescue crew approaching, and Darby cements herself as the funniest character in the movie. It's revealed that Commander Red Herring is reinstating the Space Ranger program after Buzz and the squad save them all from evil robots. And as cliche as it is, I do like Buzz choosing the squad over the settlement's, at best, competent Zap Patrol to train new Space Rangers. During the end credits scene, we see the robot that was supposed to be part of the squad still trying to give instructions on the best path to take. This scene has outstripped both Mo and the rookie ranger from the beginning of the movie as the dumbest character in the film. Yeah, strike what I was saying about Zurg being actually dead. I'm pretty sure he's not dead. A couple of the pros of this movie. Buzz and Alicia's friendship is rather touching and tragic at the same time. Alicia's deathbed message was especially very well done. And Darby becomes rather entertaining in the latter part of this movie. The cons of this movie. Buzz seems to act just a little too young for an elite space ranger. Buzz and Izzy should have had more of a mentor-student relationship rather than the chaos that unfolded in this movie. And lastly, although there are probably others, but this one's a big one for me, Mira Nova is completely absent from the movie. How dare you, Pixar? Okay, plot hole number one. Those damn autopilots. If they have autopilots this advanced, why weren't they using them to test about, I don't know, a dozen hyperspace crystals at once? Yes, I know Buzz actually had to manually adjust after the first trip, and maybe a few other times, but you can't tell me that they couldn't have programmed that into the AI. It is AI after all. Okay, plot hole number two that I noticed was they only had 2 to 5 Rangers on board the Turnip, and the Rookie. We only see a handful of suits, and we only ever meet Alicia, Buzz, and the Rookie. This doesn't make much sense considering the sheer size of the crew and the ship itself. You would have needed a little more security than that, and it is even weirder that they never trained any more elite rangers when they were on the ground. This planet is trying to kill them. You would think they would have trained as many space rangers as they could. A third plot hole I noticed was the mining security itself in the mining facility. This mining facility is pretty far away from the actual settlement, and it's run by what I have to assume is mostly scientists and mining workers. I don't understand why anyone would be stealing from it either. This is not a scenario where thieves would be running rampant. Even if there were a handful of thieves running around, They would have to go way out of their way to get a hold of a vehicle, and not only get the vehicle, they'd have to go way out of their way to get to the mining site to steal. I have no idea what they'd be stealing from it. The last plot hole, at least the last big one I noticed, was Zurg himself. He apparently went all the way to the future, a pretty distant future, and stole time travel technology. You would think that not only would this technology be guarded by who knows what, but it would also mean that whoever he stole it from almost certainly has time travel technology themselves. It is odd they didn't follow him back and take back their stuff. Maybe the ship was derelict, but if that was the case, you have to accept the idea that the older Buzz repaired an entire ship he knew absolutely nothing about, and managed to repair the robots themselves. Since the robots don't look capable of making repairs, they look like they were meant for combat or maybe heavy work. I would honestly recommend checking this movie out. It's no masterpiece, but it sure isn't the train wreck some reviews seem to think it is. It's at the very least entertaining and occasionally emotional. That's all I really ask from a kids or a family film. I'd say 6.5 out of 10. I would have bumped that up to a 7 if it wasn't for some of the more rather noticeable plot holes.